This is our church.
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 And this is how we got here.
In June of 2023, church leadership began dreaming together with the executive director of the Somerville Homeless Coalition, Mike Libby, to think about whether we could convert the first floor of our church into a shelter after they weren't able to find any other accessible and affordable location.
The current shelter, which was a few blocks from our church, wasn't cutting it anymore in terms of accessibility, condition, or capacity. The shelter was old, inaccessible for people with physical disabilities, and as homelessness increased in our area, its 16 beds weren't enough.
Sharing our building with the shelter was a big ask, but our partnership with Somerville Homeless meant a lot to our church, so we took the ask seriously.
Somerville Homeless Coalition's proposal also came at the right time in our church's lives. Just a couple years prior, we went through a visioning process where we asked ourselves, who are we as a church? And how did God want us to be? After discussion and prayer, we decided that the vision of our church is to
make God's expansive love and justice real.
Through radically inclusive sanctuary,
Authentic connection,
Spiritual exploration.
and transformative community engagement.
When we had our first big discernment meeting, one member in our community said, and I quote, "We told God that we wanted to be a radically inclusive sanctuary, and it looks like God might take us up on that." The very first question we asked ourselves, before even looking into the logistics, was, is it possible God is calling us to do this?
in the United Church of Christ and in our church, we believe that we can find God within and between each other, in prayer, and in the scriptures. In the Hebrew Bible and the Gospels, over and over again, God instructs us to welcome the stranger. When Abraham and Sarah show hospitality to a stranger who appears at their tent, it ends up being an angel. And when the disciples meet and welcome a stranger on the road after Christ's resurrection, it ends up being Jesus himself.
Whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me, instructed Jesus. We know that God is in our neighbors and that we are called to love them and to prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable among us.
So when we heard a clear sense of call to host the shelter, we then asked, is it even possible to put a shelter in our building? A city inspector toured our building. Construction plans were drawn up. A permit was granted. Public funding was secured. We entered into a formal partnership agreement with SHC. We will share our space and support the shelter with accompaniment, meals, donations, and SHC would share its financial resources. And slowly it seemed like the answer was yes.
But then in September of 2024, we were sued.
After 3 community meetings where we addressed concerns around noise, trash, and safety, a handful of people who lived around the church decided to appeal the shelter permit with the city zoning board. After they lost that appeal in summer 2024, they sued the church and SHC in land court.
This led to a year and a half of litigation. During that year and a half, we tried to go through mediation. We had already agreed to address a number of the concerns that the neighbors had prior to litigation. And there were some things that we couldn't negotiate around, like the low barrier policy or shelter management. The state requires us to serve the unhoused regardless of their background. And this aligns with our values too. Somerville Homeless Coalition, not the neighbors, nor the church community, will run this shelter. They've been doing this work since 1985, and we trust them.
It's been a long road, and God's been faithful.
It's been a long road and God has been faithful.
It's been a long road, and God has been faithful.
It's been a long road, and God has been faithful.
And we were overjoyed that on Easter Monday, April 6th, Massachusetts Land Court held that housing the homeless is a religious purpose, and the presence of a shelter in our church is protected by the Dover Amendment.
This means that we'll get to welcome our unhoused neighbors into our church very soon.
In the days to come, we also pray to find healing and reconciliation with the neighbors who sued us through transparent communication and trust building.
And we will continue to discern where God's Spirit is calling us next.
Will you come and join us?